Yes, sir. Casey with the dub. People are mad. So we're going to react to it. We have another fellow creator who disagrees with the call. Most people say it's rigged, but let's get into it, man.
I don't usually post a video this late into the evening, but right now I'm like a movie theater toilet. I am fuming. I am absolutely
Hey, them Eagles fans out here hot.
Because of how the Super Bowl just ended. I watch every Super Bowl, and in this one I didn't really have a horse in the race. I'm neither a Chiefs nor Eagles fan. I just wanted to be entertained. And for the majority of the game, I was thoroughly entertained. It was just a great game.
Fire.
Both teams putting on an incredible performance, going wacko mode, insano style, tying it 35-35. And just like the first Spider-Man movie when he fought Bonesaw, when Bonesaw was ready, we had 3 minutes. 3 minutes of playtime, and it was coming down to the wire, an absolute ass greaser. The Chiefs were driving down the field, they make it to the red zone, it's getting a little dicey for the Eagles, fans spilling their beer all over themselves in anticipation and fear, but the Eagles are putting up an incredible defensive stand, and then in the most crucial moment...
Chiefs and Eagles are really good. Like, both sides of the ball were amazing.
...of the entire game, with less than 2 minutes remaining in this tie game...
It wasn't the last 2 minutes, man. Sorry to tell you, when Jalen made that fumble, boy, he tried to switch hands, gave it a little kick. Hey, he scooped it up en route, to the house. Hey, 14-14.
A penalty was called.
I feel like that was the pivotal moment that showed you the creaky foundations of the Eagles.
For holding against the Eagles, which lost them the game. One single bad call decided...
Nah, bro. It was more than one. Because KC, they had a missed call that they should have got from Juju, 3rd and long. James held on that one. That played a part. There was a 4th and 2. KC, they got hit with that. And they got a first down to Jalen and them. So, bro, you cannot say that it came down to one last play. There's multiple things that lead up that they'll make a moment more than what it is. But there's other factors that factor into it. And the moments before played a big factor into this.
The outcome of the Super Bowl at the very end, which is what has led the majority of people who watch this game to call rigged, say the refs are all paid off, and say that it's all just part of the script. Because right now there's a tinfoil...
How can you script someone catching a ball? How can you script a ball going in a hoop? These are the things I don't understand from people that are delusional. What are you talking about? Have you never played anything in your life? How can you script that? How is that rigging? Are you going to rig Curry a 3 going in? You're going to rig Ben Simmons getting 25 points? Bro, what you talking about? You cannot rig these things. Now you can make ticky-tack calls that can influence the game a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Especially in football and basketball, you call foul, they're shooting free throws. Call too many, they got to get out the game. You call one in football, you give them a first down, new set of downs. And it deteriorates the lines, fatigue, and their mental, which is everyone on the field, on the opposite side. It can shift momentum. So stop with the scripted talks.
Nipple clamp conspiracy theory that floats around that a lot of people genuinely believe that sports are rigged.
And if it was scripted, AB would have came out CTE raging and been talking about how it's rigged. Bro, what? Come on.
Rather scripted.
Come on now.
I actually do agree that there is rigging to a certain level with the refs. I do think there is real corruption there. But let me just opine on the scripting thing real quick. I think that's a load of dirty barnacles. I think that is just a fat load of fish paste. I don't think sports are scripted at all.
Take.
That's kind of an unhinged belief. But I do think the refs are corrupt. It's not just football, it's basketball as well.
I wouldn't say they're corrupt, I'd say they're biased. And I would say that sometimes their calls might have to do with how a player's treating them in the game, how prior they were treated by the same team. There's a lot of things that come into factor. Referees are humans. Most refs are vetted to not have a favorite team. All of them do. So, and I don't think they would make an obvious call knowing that they have a house and a wife and a life to live outside of it. And I don't think they're going to do it for $100,000, $200,000, $300,000. I'm pretty sure refs are literally not allowed to bet on any sports book. I may be wrong on that, but I don't think they are.
this entire year has really shown me since I got back
And if they are, they're not putting enough money down to make a difference in their life, and it probably wouldn't be worth their job if they got found out, because people could easily find that out.
into watching sports live. I have seen so many awful officiating moments that I can find no other explanation besides just malicious corruption. And this
I just think it's dumbasses, bruh. Sticking with the old times and sticking with their calls. There should be no need for a ref on the field. First off, we have 80 billion cameras that are HDDDD. We don't need you on the field, nor do we need you on the field to break a call up to or measure any downs or put sticks anywhere, bro. There's just 40-year-old middle-aged dudes that are on the field they don't belong on, that probably have never been on in a jersey, besides with the jail stripes on. So it's just like, man.
This is the most blatant example. The holding call, I can't show you any clips because obviously it's the fucking Super Bowl. If I even showed you a still image of it, I'm sure Roger Goodell of the NFL would come to my house personally and fucking slap me around and then hit me over the head with a fucking sledgehammer.
Rodgers with
so
the
I can't show you
stats.
anything, but if you watch the Super Bowl, you immediately know the call. The call was on the Eagles for holding. The receiver was going out, and the Eagles defender lightly touched him, like on the hip. It was a light touch and like a...
What we didn't see is when the guy hit him before he got around him. That was what really got the refs looking at him. Which you're allowed to do within the first 10 yards. Cornerbacks are allowed to like pretty much hit, not all the way, not tackle, but you're allowed to like pretty much like push the receiver, like nudge him and like stop him from going forward within the first 10 yards. So gotta watch those 10 yards though.
A slight jersey tug that could have even been like accidental. It was so gentle.
It was like
the way he treated the receiver is the way a mother would treat a newborn baby.
It was some soft shit. I ain't gonna cap.
There was no holding at all on the play. And Patrick Mahomes threw up a...
There was holding on the play, buddy.
Stinky meatball of a pass that was just uncatchable regardless for the receiver that it was...
Everybody does this. If you know anything about sports, which Moist probably doesn't know much about football, whenever the opposite team creates infractions, every team's taught to continue playing on. The only time it gets blown dead is if the quarterback is about to get hit, which that did happen to KC in the not many plays before that. They had to blow the call dead because Mahomes was about to get hit. Whenever I think it was 94, got called for offsides, and he was literally already to Mahomes by the time he went like that. So they called it dead. He wasn't allowed to throw a meatball pass, but he threw that pass in order to give whoever a chance to catch that ball and pretty much to go and to blast out James to be like, look, this is where it was thrown. Look at where he was at. There's clearly something going on. It just gives more evidence to the holding call.
Intended for, but they still threw the flag and called holding on the Eagles, which gave the Chiefs a first down and also just gave them plenty of time to run out the clock, kick a field goal, win the game. It was decided by that call. It was the most crucial moment of the game, and the call instantly ended it pretty much on the spot.
Nah, man, that fumble by Jalen is what really did it.
Under no circumstances is that acceptable. Regardless of what team you are rooting for, I'm sure all of us can recognize that this is a complete wet fart of an ending to an otherwise amazing game. We just got the...
What was the wet fart was when Patrick was kneeling, bro. I didn't like that either, but they had to do what they got to do. It's a Super Bowl game. Jalen's playing out of his ass. To be honest, I feel like he would have been able to squeeze out a field goal if he was given that ball back. He would have got to halfway through that field. It would have been a 50-yard field goal. But with the Eagles' momentum, they would have hit that. They were right for kneeling, but it was very anticlimactic. I didn't like that.
The bad ending to this one, unfortunately. The biggest sporting event that America has to offer is decided by the refs instead of the players.
It's decided by unprofessionals being unprofessional in a moment, bro. Be professional. You know what's going on, bro. Sometimes they call it, sometimes they don't. The players know, is what I mean. Like, bro, if it's that, you should tee up and know not to cause any infractions. Like, come on. That's so simple.
Pathetic. That's awful. In a situation like this, I think they should go to the replays and be 100% sure that there is truly a penalty worthy of being called in a situation like this. It's a terrible look for the sport, and it's embarrassing overall. They should have 100% held the refs to a higher standard here. Oh, we're under 2 minutes to play, and this call is going to decide the...
These are the best refs. They've been reffing for a minute. These are refs that were from previous Super Bowls as well. These are the best of the best.
Outcome of the game. Everyone...
And I'm not arguing for refs. I hate refs, but these were the best refs.
knew it. The second that call was made, even the commentators were like, oh, I don't agree with that one. Eek. That's a bit spicy.
One commentator disagreed. He didn't see the first part of the play when James was literally messing with Juju a little bit after the line. He got beat, and then he held.
That's a no good. We don't
One
like
agreed,
that.
one
the
disagreed.
Commentators were outspoken about how bad the call was. In a situation where it is that crucial, they need...
Yeah, and that's what the commentator was talking about. He was talking about pretty much since it's the last moment, he didn't see enough stuff to call. Bro, he held. Whether you think it's enough to make a call, it was enough to be recognized as a hold. Therefore, a call should have been made. And if it was on the KC side, I would be upset too. But I would also recognize the fact that that was a hold. Like, you can't argue that. And if the ref was to throw the flag on the soft or hard one, that's that. But in the ending moments of all games, usually the refs do let them play it out. NBA Finals, they let them boys go at it. Motherfuckers just throwing elbows. Hey, it gets gritty. Like, come on with it. People are on it. So, like, football is a grinder sport. You're on the gridiron, bro. So they're expecting them to let it play. And I know James is too, because he did it earlier. He got away with it. They're going to let him get away with it in the last moment. I would expect if I'm him. So
need to go back to the drawing board, check everything, and 100% be sure.
No reason why we got all these goddamn cameras.
That
like, come on, man.
Be made. Because in this situation, it wasn't. It's a bad call. It's just
it's a ticky-tacky call.
Even if you're the biggest Chiefs fan in the world, you got your Chiefs butt plug dialed all the way up to maximum turbo settings, vibrating in your colon. You're super excited they won.
Whew.
In the back of your mind, you know that it's a pretty upsetting ending. I'm sure you would have preferred if they had actually beat them on their own merit instead of having the refs help.
They beat them boys on their own merit, and they made Jalen fumble. That's what decided the game.
Because no matter how you spin it, that call decided that game at the very end. The Chiefs could have still 100% won that, but now it's always going to be left up to speculation on, well, would the Eagles have made a game-winning drive?
I mean, would the Eagles have scored and been like 21-7 instead of Jalen fumbling? Would KC got that call when Juju got held in the beginning of the game? It made James realize he's a professional and not hold again.
Would the Eagles have stopped them on that
Woulda,
red
coulda,
zone
shoulda,
drive?
bro.
Like, there's so many question marks now that the win can't feel as good as it would have if the refs didn't make that call. It's a lose-lose.
It's all about feeling good for the consumer, and everyone goes for the underdog. I do too, and I'm rooting for Jalen because I'm a fan of talent. Eagles have been an underdog. The year they beat Tom Brady with Nick Foles was just like lucky, to be honest. I don't even think people count that as an L against them. They just think the Eagles was clicking. But long story short, man, this argument is
lose
just
for everybody
getting
except
old,
the
man.
refs that may have been paid off. Like, I'm actually starting to believe that they
now they're paid off
in some way financially in order to make these awful calls. We just saw it recently in the NBA with the infamous no call against the Lakers. I'm not even going to bother going down that road right now. I already.
So would you rather? So to go over what was he talking about? LeBron got hit on the arm. They did not make the call. LeBron was livid. This game they made the call. Granted, the LeBron one's a little bit more blatant. This one was a little bit more soft, and it was football. But what you're making an argument for is for people in the last moments of the game to do what they want to win the game, and for the refs to not make calls because they will alter the game. Bruh, do not commit fouls that will alter the game. How about that? Like, just don't commit a foul, especially if you're professional and you know what's at stake in the game. It's your side of the field. You're covering maybe the third option, and you're going to hold? Bruh, he got happy feet. He got beat. He probably was watching Mahomes thinking he's going to run. Watching Kelsey run a slant. He bit. So, like, bro, you can't argue that. It just...
fucking ranted about that on stream for quite some time, and I'm not even a goddamn Lakers fan either. I just hate how awful calls decide the outcome of the biggest games. I just think that's horrible. Like, it's just bad. And what's even worse is there's really no incentive to be good at your job as a referee. Like, if you do well, cool. If you do poorly, there's no repercussion.
Man, get the refs out of here. I'm sick of the refs, man. These 40-year-old bro, they shouldn't even be on the field. Why are they on the field? We don't need you there to break a fight up. We don't need you there to measure the sticks out. And you're not giving us any angle that a camera wouldn't. We don't need them to dictate anything. They shouldn't even exist at this point. Bring a bot in or just use the cameras. I don't understand why we still have refs. I don't even like any refs in any sport. Makes no sense. They're always a problem. I would rather leave it up to an AI or a bot or someone, 3 people up in there with the camera. The announcers that are saying, oh, it's actually this. It's just, man, it's upsetting that we still have refs. Crazy.
Highest stage. I don't understand why they have so much leniency in situations like this and so much power, too. This is a call that should have been thoroughly looked under with a microscope 1,000 times. Bring in a third-party investigation unit for this call tonight.
Under the 2 minutes, I'm pretty sure all plays are reviewed. And that's in all games, not just the Super Bowl. So they were looking for whatever they could look for. And I'm pretty sure they would have picked the flag up. We've had more flag pickups this year than any in the course of history of NFL. So, they're picking flags up. If it was not a flag, they would have picked it up. Let's get that right.
Check. Bring out a fucking forensics team.
They double check.
It's the biggest call of that game in the most crucial moment of the entire game. Really do your due diligence to ensure that
they do, and I'm pretty sure. I'm not sure if they do, but refs should get fined if there's any calls that are made bad. I feel like that's just common sense right there.
Necessary, because you do not want a game to wrap up the way this one did. It causes nothing.
I didn't like the kneeling,
and it ruins the entire thing.
Don't foul, bro.
The Super Bowl was.
What ruins the entire thing is if they don't call no flags and I can do whatever I want and someone can cheat. Imagine that. It's the same result. People are going to be upset because they're not calling calls that are clear to be called.
Amazing.
Come
all
on.
the way up until it wasn't. At the very last 2 minutes, less than 2 minutes. It's craziness. Can't believe I'm actually making a sports ranting video, but my family and I were having so much fun watching the Super Bowl, and when that call was made, collectively all of us let out an audible groan in frustration.
And I bet you all the other people that don't watch sports on a regular basis did the same thing because it's very ticky-tacky. Refs either call that or they do not. Sometimes, more than likely, they do not. Especially in the biggest moments, they really don't. So he thought he could get away with it, which normies that watch, they probably were like, oh, that didn't look like a hold. Even this, if I go like that, that's a hold. Like you're holding the bat. If you swing his hip, you're impeding him. It doesn't have to just be a straight, oh, you're holding this, you're holding me and gripping me down. He did both. He moved him and he impeded him and held. There's multiple.
And it took the wind out of all of our sails.
That's sad.
None of us are Chiefs fans or Eagles fans. We didn't give a fuck who won.
So these are confirmed normies watching the game. So clearly they don't know what a true holding call is. They probably need it to be very obvious, which I understand.
It's just such an amazing game. And to have it in this way is deflating. I can only imagine Philadelphia Eagles fans right now. But anyway, I just wanted to vent about all this. Also, I'll tackle one more thing that I've already seen pop up a lot where it's like, no, it's technically a holding no matter what.
It's technically a holding no matter what. What are you talking about?
I mean, I just disagree.
Why?
Like, even with the way the rule's written and the way that it's...
The way the rule is written is if you impede or hold after them 10 yards, the flag should be thrown.
Typically enforced, it's still...
Typically, they don't call those ticky-facts, so I understand that point. Those little ticky-tack fouls that are real soft, but hey, you're in the Super Bowl.
It doesn't seem like a hold. His movement really wasn't impeded at all, and the ball was still pretty uncatchable.
His speed was impeded, and you can see from where the ball landed that it was impeded, for one. Two, that thrown meatball was up there just to show the refs he was throwing to that side and to potentially give Juju a chance. Just saying. Because they can either take the 10 yards or they can take whatever yards the receiver gets off of that.
Anyway, so it's not like it would have had a huge impact on the outcome of that play in particular. So even if you want to argue that technically...
To be honest, I'm glad he didn't... Like, bruh, if he would have caught that and not been impeded, that probably would have been a touchdown to give Jalen more time, and we could be looking at a completely different scenario right now.
It's a hold. It's still a call that doesn't need to be made, especially given the magnitude of the game.
It needs to be called because of the magnitude of the game. If you think you're finna come in here and just do some slick stuff and get away with it like you did in the beginning of the game, I'm going to have to blow the whistle, bruh. Like, I understand they call ticky-tackies. They don't call those soft ones. They really don't. Sometimes they do, they don't. If it's clear, like when they're one-on-one on the side of the field, more than likely they do, which I'm pretty sure that was the case. But sometimes they don't, so I understand. They need to be more consistent with their calls. Because the wishy-washiness is
Because
getting
that
old,
call
to be honest.
ends the game on the spot when you make it.
And if you have normies pointing it out, then you have a problem. NFL needs to get on this.
This was the most important moment of the game. This was pivotal. And that...
I think that fumble was the most important part, and that missed call on that 3rd and long by Juju when James thought he was slick and he held. So he literally tricked himself into thinking he can do it again. Come on now.
Call being made instantly decides the outcome of the entire game.
Instantly? Nah.
Their fate was sealed the second they threw that
Their fate was sealed
penalty.
when he thought he was slick on that
So
3rd and long.
I don't think that it needed to be made, nor should it have been, because I don't think any games should be decided by a penalty like that. It's fucking pathetic. It's laughable, really.
It's
And
sad that he
that's
was a
why
professional and he did that. You can't do that, but he tricked himself earlier when he held.
People are screaming rigged because it did decide the winner of the...
Only normies are screaming rigged and people that are literally rooting for the underdog, which I understand. But anybody with a brain that uses it to watch sports sometimes, even sometimes, you'll know that's a hold. Like,
this match, no matter how you argue it,
it's
they
a little
won
hold at
immediately
that. It's a little pussy hold, but it was a hold.
off of that call. So it's just a real shame. And yeah, I just kind of wanted to talk about all of that. That's about it.
So yeah, man, let's hear from the horse's mouth. Since no one thinks it's a hold. Let's see what James has to say. This is James right here.
Like, you pulled on it enough for that call at that time.
I mean, that's not up for my judgment. You know, I was hoping he would let it go, but of course.
Oh, y'all heard that? Hear it again. Let's hear it again.
I was hoping he would let it go, but
He was hoping he would let it go like he did in the beginning of the game. They let him hold on the same player midfield, so obvious. He got away with it. He was like, bro, it's the last play. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it again.
of course, you know, he's a ref. It's a big game, and it was a hold. So.
Oh,
How hard is it?
Like,
a man of his
It
word.
was a hold.
It was a hold.
It was a hold game, and it was a hold. It was a big game, and it was a hold.
Okay, it was a hold.
So they called it.
And they called it. Case closed, bruh. Like, what are we arguing about? The dude committed the foul. He's got to not hold. He did that because he thought he was going to get away with it. Game's wrapped up. That game was amazing. I hope you guys actually watched it and tuned in. Super Bowls are amazing, and this one paid. It paid off from the hype, man, because it was whoo. We had 2 black quarterbacks. Them boys showed out, put up points, showed their prowess. Give Jalen his flowers. Give Mahomes his flowers. Mahomes, one or two more Super Bowls with the Super Bowl MVP. Hey, GOAT status. I'm sorry. GOAT status. He came in there injured and did that. He got injured mid-game and did it. So, man, for people who are still arguing, you heard from the horse's mouth himself, he held. The refs sometimes call it, sometimes they don't. Just get over it. Come back next year strong. Y'all got a nice squad. Y'all stacked. Make some noise next year. Hopefully we see y'all. But this was just a little reaction to this, man. We're going to be tapping more into some sports stuff and some other topics. So just keep tuning in with the channel, like and subscribe, join the community, and we're finna keep things rolling. But I'll see y'all on the next one.